The views expressed on the following program are those of the hosts, callers, and guests, and are not necessarily those of WMEL staff, management, or advertisers.
This is Joe Steckler, folks, your host for Helping Seniors, the radio arm of Helping Seniors at Brevard.org. Our job is to inform, educate, and connect people and those that have a need for resources to those resources. That's what we do. We don't compete with anybody else. We just try to complete the care equation. It's a great thing to have many wonderful resources in a county to help people that have a need. What's really poor is when the people that have a need don't know about all the resources that are available to help them, both in terms of local resources, government resources, and any other type of resource that can help people in need. And we're going to, in the show today, we're going to take a little different approach to our show. I've got Ashleigh Caswell, who is the marketing and sales director for Hibiscus Court. Ashley's with us today, and Kerry Fink is also in the studio with us. But Ashleigh is going to talk a little bit about looking at assisted living from maybe a different aspect. And when she said what she wanted to talk about, I understood perfectly, because I'll tell a story about what happened to me when I used to have the Alzheimer's program. But before we get into the show, I just want to mention some of our sponsors, because these are the people that help us pay our way. They're also people that provide many of the excellent services to people here in Brevard County. Places like Canadian Meds of Melbourne and Care Patrol, an organization that can take you to nursing homes, to assisted living, to daycares, to different places to help you get into what I call the right element of care. There are so many elements of care, you just need to understand more what they are and what they can do for you and how you can access them. That's what the show today will be about. But one of our newest sponsors is Hibiscus Court, and they're represented here today by Ashleigh. So what I would like to do, and I'm going to mention some of our sponsors during the show, and I'll do it a little bit different than I normally do it, so that we don't get into a big long list of sponsors. Sounds like I'm just marketing a program. I am and I'm not. But having said that, Ashleigh, I think first of all, before we do anything, people really need to understand what assisted living is, how it differs from other terms or other forms of care outside the home. So how much you do it?
So assisted living is a residential setting. So all the seniors have their own apartments, and we provide care if they need it to them in their apartment. We also have a chef and a chauffeur, so we help with any activities of daily living that someone may need help with.
Explain what you mean when you say activities of daily living.
So an activity of daily living is anything that you do every day. So you cook, maybe you clean, you eat, you take a shower, you get dressed, you take medications. Those are all activities of daily living, and our girls are able to help with any and all of it.
At Hibiscus Court, if a person comes there and can no longer drive, how do they get to their doctors and other places where they might need to go?
So we have a bus and a car, and we have drivers that'll take our residents wherever they want to go. We go out and do fun things. We go out in the community. We go to live shows, to the beach. Today everyone's at the airport watching the planes come in. And then we also go to doctor's appointments, and our nurses help organize all the doctor's appointments and take anyone wherever they need to go. We can do it.
I've been doing this radio show for 17 years. You are the first person that has been a guest on my radio show that has said we have a car to take our patients or our clients someplace.
Yeah.
Almost everybody else has a bus or a van.
Yeah.
The car, to me, for certain people, makes a lot of sense, because you can put 2 or 3 people in the car. They enjoy the camaraderie of being with somebody else in the car, and it's not like being shuttled someplace back and forth. It's more like a family outing.
Oh.
So these are the things. Then what I want to do today, I want you to try very hard, Ashleigh, to point out to our listening audience how Hibiscus Court differs from some of the other assisted livings. Now, I know that you have a pretty good idea what all of them do, and And frankly speaking, I think Brevard County is probably very blessed to have so many of the good assisted living
Certainly we
facilities
are.
that we do have. Not all counties have that. There are many counties in the United States that don't even have an assisted living
Yeah, some
facility.
counties are lucky if they have one.
Right,
So.
right. And we've got many good places there. We've got some that are not so good.
That's true.
And that's exactly why organizations like that we're not going to talk about on the show today, but there are organizations that help get you to the right assisted living facility. They get you to the right nursing home or the right daycare.
Right.
So the other thing that's important is that if you go into an assisted living facility, depending on the licenses that facility has, you can do a better job or a more complete job of keeping a person there, not having to shuffle them someplace else.
Yes and no. And first, we do not like the word facility. I mean, technically, yes, we're a facility, but it's much more a community. So we like the word community instead of facility, because who wants to go live at a facility? But communities are great, and it really is a community. So there are 3 different types of licenses. We have a standard license. We are able to do diabetic care because we have nurses 24/7. So generally, there's not anyone that we can't serve. The one reason we'd not be able to serve someone if they needed, they had maybe an ostomy of some sort or a hole in the body, something that requires actual really medical
Like
care.
tube feeding?
Yeah, well, tube feeding or generally a hole in the body.
Okay.
But every assisted living would be glad to tell you what they can and can't do. I haven't had a single resident move out because of care needs. So generally, we're able to help people through end of life. There's not normally a reason to move out.
I already knew the answer to that question. So I just wanted to ask it because one of the purposes that we've always had for this show, Ashleigh, is that listeners hear different things week to week. I can take the same set of questions and ask 6 different assisted living organizations the same set of questions and get different answers. A lot on how well you market a facility depends on how well you can verbalize what you can provide, how people enjoy it, how they fit in with each other. This is the true mark of a good assisted living business. If you can't do that, then you're going to be hard pressed to look for clients. Hibiscus Court, on the other hand, as long as I've known Hibiscus Court to be in existence, it's roughly 14 years now, they pretty much had a full house the whole time
Yeah.
it's been there.
Well, we do generally have a full house, but 2 or 3 people move in every month, so I don't ever like saying that we're full because then people think they can't join us. So we stay pretty full because we're a fun place to be. But a couple people move in every month. So
Yeah, that's the way it should be because, it's sad to say people do die. And I had that same experience I had. At one point in my Navy career, I took care of 550 people.
wow.
550. I had a hospital, I had a 57-bed assisted living floor, and I had 500 well residents, average age 77. I had a truck in the morning or a carry-out that went west towards New Orleans to the races, and I had another truck that went the opposite way toward Pensacola to the dog track. So I had residents that loved to go to the horse races every day. I had others that like to play, they like to gamble, they like to play golf. I had one guy that used to bring me golf balls all the time. I suspected some of the golf balls were still rolling when he picked them up. This is what life is all about. And life in an assisted living facility can be a good life if the organization runs it the right way.
Right, yeah.
And you made a comment in your notes that you sent to me that you had been to a health fair recently, and that instead of people coming up to you and talking to you about Hibiscus Court, people sort of went the opposite way.
Yeah, no, at health fairs, senior health fairs. So people attend to get information for seniors and to get information on all the resources that are there and what's available to them. Most of the people don't want to talk to me because they think assisted living, oh, thank God I don't need to live there, or I don't need that yet. But the time to learn about assisted living is before you need it. It's not, when you're in the hospital looking for a discharge because, you need some more assistance. It's before you need it so that you can pick which community has the right personality for you.
It's extremely important. It's extremely important. You don't want to do what Ashleigh is saying. Folks, you don't want to be placed in a position where you must accept something. I've had so many people talk to me, Ashleigh, over the years about, well, Joe, how do I determine where I should go? What's the best way to look at it? And I think back to my grandmother in a town I lived in. We had 2 assisted living facilities, and one was brand new, gorgeous. About 8 people could walk arm in arm down the corridors. Mm-hmm. The other one, you're lucky if 2 people could walk side by side. Mm-hmm. Well, my mother and father put my grandmother in the one where 2 people could walk side by side, because the people there knew their clients. Mm-hmm. They were loving, caring people, and the food was good, and the atmosphere was conducive to good care. Mm-hmm. And it showed, my mother used to visit my grandmother every day, but she went there, and she always hated to leave, but when she did leave, she knew that my grandmother was in a good place. I went down to Hibiscus Court, it was several months ago, and I saw this gentleman sitting out front, and it was a person I've known for years. Mm-hmm. And I asked him, I said, how you doing? And he said, great. And I said, I like it here. Big smile.
Yeah, he has a lot of fun.
Big smile. Mm-hmm. But the smile told me that he was happy there. You get different reaction from different clients and different people that live in a different place. But I going back to when the question was, we're talking about people walking away and not wanting to know about assisted living facility. I think that's. Have you got any kind of advice that you would be willing to offer to people that are contemplating going into an assisted living facility or some type of element of care?
Just go see communities. Every community will be happy to give you a tour and tell you what they're all about. I know I do. I offer lunch with a tour, so you get to, sit with the residents and ask them questions and see what it's like to live there. Pretty much every community will do that. If they tell you no, that speaks a lot.
If I asked, just to add to what Ashleigh just said, folks, if you ask a assisted living facility or a nursing home facility if you can come in and visit and see how they work, and they say, well, no, or call us back at a certain time, I would never waste my time going there. I just wouldn't do it. Right. Because they're the ones, generally speaking, that for any number of reasons have something to hide. And the facilities, I would never, ever put anybody in a facility unless I could go there and visit, see, and I wouldn't go at meal times. I would go at odd times. I would go at different times. I would see what kind of staffing levels they had during the night. Mm-hmm. If a person won't let you in there, say, at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, if you just say, I just came down to browse and think about my...
Well, if you're coming down at 9 o'clock at night, we don't have a receptionist out, and our nurse probably is not going to let you in, but I'll certainly talk to you, because it is their resident's home. But yeah, if you're really thinking about coming into a community and you've visited a couple times before, they should let you in at whatever time and give you a tour. But
actually, there'd be another point, folks. If you call an organization and you ask to see them, and your request, like my saying 9 o'clock at night, it is unreasonable. It is an unreasonable request. But Ashleigh's response was correct, because if you don't get some kind of an answer, some type of a way to resolve whatever your question was, that again tells you what kind of a facility it is. The people that are in charge of the good organizations will do their very, very best to try to accommodate you so that they can showcase their organization. An organization that's in the care business that will not showcase their people or showcase their place,
Yeah.
they're not the good ones.
Yeah, if you have anything to hide, then that's a reason to run. Yeah, but we love giving tours. We love having people over and showing them what it's like to be a resident. You know, because a lot of our residents, they still drive. They go out and they have fun. They have volunteer gigs. You know, they still have a very, very full life. You don't lose anything going to assisted living. You only get things. You get a chef, you get a chauffeur, you get a housekeeper, you get a concierge, at least at our community. So we don't take anything away from you when you move to our community. When you get an apartment with us, it's your own apartment. So,
Apartment. What kind of, as an assisted living facility, Hibiscus Court itself, what kind of accommodations do you have for, say, a couple that's in their mid-60s, early 70s that no longer want to cut the grass? They don't want to, I guess I'll start all over. They don't want to do those things, but you've got these other communities where you have to buy a head up front and you go into a place, it's more like an apartment type renting as you pay maybe a person $2,500 a month,
right.
$4,000 for a couple. At Hibiscus Court, you get the same type thing, but you get a lot more protection with it. Explain that to our listening audience.
So in the apartments, everyone has a private apartment. With the apartment comes all utilities, all cables included. There's no additional charges. The only thing that we don't include is telephone, because most people still have cell phones, and the landline just doesn't work for them because they're generally out and about and not in their apartments to even answer their phone.
Right.
And when you live at Hibiscus, you have 3 hot chef-prepared meals a day. He cooks everything from scratch, so we eat really well. And if you need any sort of health care, advice from the nurses, we have nurses available 24/7. Even if you don't use them on a regular basis, you can always just chat with one of our nurses if you have a question. And if they don't know the answer, they can check with your doctor. And we have a concierge to help you with whatever you need. If you need something mailed or faxed, we have people to help you with that.
I'm going to test your knowledge of the kitchen.
What's that?
I'm going to test
Okay.
Do you use instant grits or cooked grits?
He does it the long way. It's not instant. It takes forever.
It's the cook. That's the right way to say it, because grits are something that my wife and I both happen to like, and if they use the instant grits, they're thin or watery, and cooked grits, you cook them and you cook them down, and you add more water and you cook them down. It's like Ashley said, it takes forever to make them sometimes.
Yeah.
But you can tell the difference.
Yeah,
and,
you can.
And for those of you that come from the north down south.
Yeah, the Northerners, they don't like our grits.
Yeah. Well, they don't know what true grits are. It's not a breakfast cereal. You pour milk and sugar and cinnamon over. It's to be eaten with butter and salt and pepper.
Yeah, it's
that's
okay.
the way you eat them.
More for us.
But this is what sets apart some living organization from others. Ashley, is I had a woman who called me up one time. She had a loved one in one of our nursing homes here in the county, and every time she'd go over to see her mother would be it was her father. He'd be very, very upset, and the reason he was upset, this organization kept trying to give him carrots. He did not like carrots, and they kept feeding him carrots, and he just would not eat them. The woman told the facility, and finally she called me. So I called the director of the facility up because I know her real well. I said, you make a lot of money for yourself. You just really, really don't try to give that guy carrots. I said, he didn't like them. There are too many other vegetables you can give somebody. So once they did that, it kept the guy happy. The point being here is, so when you get older, there are so many little things that we either try to force on somebody or try to keep away from somebody that can make living at that place a lot easier.
Right.
And the good organizations try their very best to accommodate.
Right, yeah. Ours, we have a full-service restaurant downstairs, and residents get to order whatever they like. So the chef makes 2 main entrees every meal, and they can order it however they like. We never make anyone eat carrots if they don't want to eat carrots. Some people have pie first. If you're 95 years old and you want to eat your pie before your lunch, who are we to stop you?
They eat dessert first?
Oh, heck yeah. Uh-huh.
That's kind of like the guy that I had a client when I had the Navy retirement home, and I'd catch this guy. I looked through the swinging doors going into the dining room. We could feed 600 people at a time. And I see this gentleman. He'd like to take his pie and put it in his pocket.
Ew.
Well, he did. He took his pie, put it in his pocket, and then he'd take it back to his room and he'd put it under the mattress. And he caught me one day watching him. But it's like a game when you get older. And the thing is, a lot of older people, when they get in these facilities, like they like to be a little devilish at times. They can be. They can make it more of a game, and then you realize just because a person is old doesn't mean that they've lost interest, or they can be treated as somebody that's you don't really have to care about. And that's another thing that's organizations like yours apart from others. But you go back to this thing as you talk about, and about people being afraid to ask about assisted living care. When I was a director of the Alzheimer's Foundation, people would see they would see the Alzheimer's sign. They would shy away from it. Mm-hmm. But you made a comment about people shying away from you. So we're going to just take a break here in just a second. But when we come back on the other side of the break, I'd like for you to think during the break a little bit about what you could say to our listening audience that would help people to convince them to start thinking about planning for assisted living care at an earlier age. Okay?
Yep.
So stay with us, folks. We'll talk about it on the other side of the break on Kerry. We're going to let Terry talk a little bit, too. Bye-bye.
It's the Talk to Me Network on AM 1510, FM 99.9, 94.7, and 100.7.
This is Joe Steckler, folks. We're back live with the second half of Helping Seniors show for this Thursday edition. I'll mention a couple more of our new sponsors. Care Patrol and Soder LLC are two organizations that do somewhat of a similar type service, and they can, if you're in a need for different elements of care, if you go to them, they can direct you to organizations such as Hibiscus Court, to nursing homes, to daycares, to different things that they think that you might be ready for. We also have a new sponsor, and it's called Pit Crew Roofing. And what I really like about them, and I'm going to have more do some work for me because I think I have a problem. I'm not sure if it's caused by the roof or something else, but they also, along with doing roofing work, they also can do construction work. And there are not too many roofing companies that do that. What that really helps is that so many times a roofing company can cover up a problem, and whereas you get a company that comes in like Pit Crew Roofing, they can say what the real problem is and fix both of them, and most likely at a very big cost savings to you. So there's some examples of our new type sponsors, and the Eye Institute, Vitas Healthcare, and Bill Johnson, elder law attorney. Hibiscus Court, I'll mention him again because Ashleigh's here with us as a panelist today. But if you want to find out about all the wonderful sponsors that provide services that most likely you will have a need of someday, you can go to helpingseniors.brevard.org. Look at our sponsor and partner list, and you will see what all these people can do. You can see television shows on all of them. They all talk about what they can do and how they serve the people in the community. And what the big advantage is, folks, is that let's say that you have a daughter or a son that lives in California or New York or Utah, and they're concerned about you and the type of care that you're getting, and you can simply say to them, okay, take your computer out, go to helpingseniors@brevard.org, and look at the video, say on today's panelists. Look at the video on Hibiscus Court, and you'll see what the facility looks like. You'll hear what their marketing person had to say about the facility, and this will give you some idea of the type of facility that you might be directed to. That's just one example, folks. And that's really important to understand that. Just like it's important to understand what all the stuff is going on the TV today. I had a very, very sad thing happen. And this is the example I was trying to think of during the first part of the show. I had a call from a tax preparer, and she had a woman that earned $16,000 a year, and her insurance costs for health care were $286 a month. And a woman didn't know how she was going to pay her bills. She had to file taxes. When I found out about it, I called Lance Jarvis over at the SHINE organization, serving the health insurance needs of elders. He was just horrified. He said, "Joe, get the woman's name and have her call me." And he said, "Let us work with her to see what we can do," because he says she's eligible for so many things that she doesn't know about. So eligibility, understanding, knowing what you're getting yourself into, or realizing what you need to do 10, 15, or 20 years before the event is going to happen to you is what we're talking about today on this show with Ashleigh. As a marketing director, Ashleigh, and a salesperson for Hibiscus Court, you do the same thing and as many other assisted living facilities do. They're all paid for. The good ones are paid for much the same way. Describe to our listening audience some of the things they can do in terms of things like long-term care insurance and some of the other things they can do 10 or 15 years before they might need the service. Why if they do correctly plan for things, it doesn't frighten them as much when they go to the health fairs.
Right, yeah. So if they've planned already, then they're familiar with what, assisted living is. Many people come to me and they walk through my doors because a doctor has told them they need to live here, and that's their first planning stage. But if they were to come when they're still able-bodied, when they think that they don't need any help, and we were to educate them, I can give them all the information on, this is how much it's going to cost, and maybe you need a financial advisor to help, or maybe you should go buy long-term care insurance. Which is a really great product. I have lots of my residents who don't worry at all about what the monthly cost is because they purchased a long-term care insurance plan years ago.
Yeah, well, it stands to reason. Let's say if a person made $40,000 a year, and there are a lot of people in the United States that earn $40,000 a year, if you don't do something about putting some of that aside for when you retire, if you say instead of putting anything aside, you just expect the government to put you in an assisted living facility or a nursing home, that's not going to happen. But having said that, it's sad to say it could happen because almost every state in the United States has what we call Medicaid. And if a person requires assisted care, instead of going into an assisted living facility, they will put them in a nursing home at twice the cost simply because the law doesn't provide for the provision of assisted living facility care the same way it does under the laws it does for a nursing home. What I would say is if a person has need of a nursing home, a state cannot deny them care.
Right. There are a lot of assisted livings that do accept Medicaid, though. So if you're in the Medicaid planning process, you'll get a social worker with your Medicaid contractor, and they can help you find the right assisted living. There's many, small group homes that'll take people for their Social Security and whatever Medicaid supplements.
Yeah. The thing about it actually is that if a person is expecting a Cadillac Mercedes care,
no,
and they're forced to accept the Chevy Ford care, they're upset about it.
Right.
And they expect the Cadillac Mercedes care.
Right.
And unless you plan for it, you're not going to get that kind of care.
Right, yeah, because Medicaid is a state-funded program, and the state is only going to pay for a shared room rate, which means that you get a buddy. And they're not necessarily someone that you've picked to be your roommate, but if the state is going to support you at an assisted living, they only pay for a shared room.
Yeah. And why Ashley is talking about, folks, about planning, and you need, if you're going to think about using Medicaid to pay for some type of retirement care or assisted care, you need to think about getting into it as quickly as possible, because I did a television show last week with a person, or I did it this week with a person, and the numbers of people in the nursing home or on Medicaid planning 2 months ago were roughly 50,000 in Florida. I found out the day of the show through my guest I had that there are no longer 50,000 people on the Medicaid waiting list, but 62,000.
Mm-hmm.
And now why this is so significant when you're talking about going into living in assisted living facilities, listener, is that our governor did not take the extended Medicaid benefits. So Florida right now has $26.9 billion of our budget. It goes for Medicaid. And we have 62,000 people on the Medicaid waiting list. And under the current budget proposal by the president, those numbers are going to decline in terms of how much is put in there to care for the people. So it just means that we're going to have more people needing care, not going to have enough money to do it, and we're going to have to scramble again in order to see how to take care of people. And then that, again, puts a burden on good assisted living facilities like Hibiscus Court and others that we have here in Brevard County to be able to serve clients, Ashley.
Mm-hmm.
And as a marketing director, it's very difficult for you to, I would imagine it's very difficult to see somebody that really needs care and you'd like to put them in some place good like you represent, and you simply can't do it.
Yep. People come to me almost every day, and I have to point them in the direction of, a social worker to maybe help them find the right spot. But the cool thing about Hibiscus and Medicaid is that if you've lived with us for a number of years and private paid, and then you've just had the good fortune to outlive your money, you can stay with us on Medicaid as long as we have space. So we're allowed a very small percentage of our community for Medicaid recipients. So we do allow a couple people to stay on Medicaid if you've had the good fortune to outlive your resources.
Okay, Kerry, you've been listening here the whole time, and with that nice haircut that your wife gave you, Kerry got his haircut a couple days ago, folks, by Tammy. His wife gave him a haircut, and it gave him a whole new look. And I can't show it to you here on a radio show, but I can describe it to you. And it takes a few years off. He looks like a younger guy, and it makes him happy. He's laughing and very convivial here in the studio. So I turn it over to you, Kerry. What are you going to do to get back with me?
Yeah, it's all good, Joe. So actually, I was thinking as you guys were talking about all the challenges of assisted living and getting the right mix, there was something as we were sharing notes back and forth getting ready for today's show that, and it's something that you wrote, Ashley, in the note. You said, for a lot of people, this is very scary. People don't want to think about assisted living. And everything you guys have been talking about up to now is that it makes sense to start thinking about it early while it's optional and getting an understanding that it's probably not what you're imagining, like a horror story or something. In fact, what you wrote I thought was really good. You said most people who come to us who really aren't thriving at home the way they should would have been much better if they had come in at an earlier stage to Hibiscus Court, when you sit there and you're talking concierge, we're going to drive you where you need to go. You're not going to have to worry about cooking. You're not going to have to worry about many of the things, cutting the grass, all these things. And I think there's a couple of things that you guys were also talking about before that seem, at least as just a kind of an uneducated consumer, seem like huge advantages. I think you were mentioning that your executive director has been there for 14 plus years.
Yes, she has a record in the county.
Yeah, and I mean, that means, to me, it's like you couldn't stay in a position if you weren't doing a good job in that position. And when you think about turnover in the industry, you said that she's like probably the longest running.
Oh, by far. But she's got, I think the next closest might be a decade less than her. So
that's not a small accomplishment. That seems like a huge.
Directors at these facilities have a high rate of turnover.
They do.
They do.
Yeah. And because we've been under the same leadership for so long, our residents benefit from that continuity.
Stability.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we know, and we have 25% of our caregivers have been there for a decade or more. And that means that they're there because they love being there and they love, helping people, and we're a fun place to be too. So that's a big part of it, is we just have fun every day.
That's what I was going to ask, is I think a lot of times when I was reading what you wrote, and also the notes that the experience from going to senior expos, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know about that. Do you think there's a lot of confusion, again, among people who are sort of new to the concept? They think, well, this is a nursing home, and they don't understand what an assisted living is. Oh,
completely. And so many people ask me, can I bring my car? Do you let me, go out and about if I want? Am I allowed to leave? And of course, this is an apartment. We don't ever take anything away. We add to people's, to their lives. We enrich lives. We don't take things away.
Who makes decisions? Like when you see families come in, and you probably see it done well, when people are looking ahead of time, and then you see it in a crisis mode, well, we've got to do something. Obviously, your preference would be the former. Tell a little bit about how it happens when somebody does this the right way.
When you do it the right way, you tour maybe a couple places, 2 or 3 places, and you have lunch, you hang out with their residents, you get a feel for the vibe of the community, and once you've selected the right one, maybe you need to sell your house, maybe you need to do some stuff before you come in. But most of the time, if you set a goal that, in 6 months, I'll be there, then the community can be ready for you. And a lot of times we do activities with the residents before they move in, so that they can get to know everybody. And once they move in, that you get to decorate your apartment however you like and make it homey and just right for you. And then you have a really good outcome because you have supportive, health care, because we work with your doctors to make sure that everything's taken care of. And our nurses are able to see a lot of things that maybe you wouldn't necessarily notice on your own. So, a lot of times our nurses catch things in residents that a resident was not going to self-report. But if we notice that someone has a swollen hand one day, our nurses are going to follow up with their doctors. And if that person was at home alone, they probably would have just let it slide and think, oh, I must have eaten too much salt. But a lot of times there's a concern there that we're able to address because we communicate so well and we provide so many services.
The one thing that we haven't talked about as assisted living facility, and it's something that's there probably are 5 or 6 in our community or Broward County that can do that, and it's memory care. Please describe for our listening audience, talk a little bit about your memory care at Hibiscus Court, how many you can take care of, and how you ensure that these clients are, I don't like to use the word locked up, but it is a secure environment.
Yeah, secure. We have a memory care community. We've always had a memory care community. It has room for 20 residents, and we have a full activities program in there. And a lot of the residents who live in our community, we call it our garden. We don't ever use the term memory care inside the walls of Hibiscus because no one needs to be reminded that they need memory care. It's just not fair. So they have all the same benefits as all the other residents, of course. The chef prepares all their meals. Sometimes we might need to do it a little differently. Maybe the chef will cut it up before it gets to them, but we make sure that we provide a very dignified service. And all of our caregivers have extensive dementia training. Heidi, our executive director, has been teaching how to help someone with a dementia, Alzheimer's included, but to help people with dementia, because they do need to be approached differently. They're experiencing life differently than we are.
Right.
So we guide the environment so that they're able to have success and, feel very independent. We do things with our residents. We don't do things to our residents. So we'll help someone brush their teeth. We're not going to brush their teeth for them unless they, need us to.
One of the good things about Hibiscus Court, one of the many good things about Hibiscus Court is that, let's say you have a couple and they're in their middle 70s, and one of them does have a dementia problem, and the other has completely capable of doing whatever they want to do. One could live in the memory care unit, and one could live in another apartment in the community.
Right.
And they're together. They don't have to split them up.
No.
There's so many places, if you go someplace if somebody wanted to go into retirement living, once they reach a point where one of the partners has, one of the spouses has a
just different needs.
A problem like that, they require them to move.
Right. We have couples who, both couples live upstairs in an apartment, and if one spouse has memory care needs, they can come down to our garden during the day and spend the day in our garden, but still, if they're able to spend the night with their spouse, they can still do that. So we have a lot of different ways that our residents can still be couples, because that's still important. And we make sure that we take care of the caregiver spouse as well, because oftentimes they're the ones that are burned out and need our support. Because the person who has higher care needs, they're easy to take care of, but the caregiver spouse, they're not used to being taken care of. So.
The other part is that when you get back to the part where you talked about going to the healthcare fairs and people being afraid to talk about going into assisted care or saying they're not ready for it. It's the same thing with people facing dementia. Nobody wants to admit that they have that problem, but nevertheless, it is a reality we have to face. And if we can provide for a couple that wants to stay together and keep them together, then we need more facilities like Hibiscus Court that have given consideration and thought to how they can make that happen.
Right.
And that's one of the good things about understanding. But none of those things happen, Ashleigh, unless people in their 30s and 40s start thinking about how they're going to be able to do this kind of thing.
Right.
Kerry, what else would you add?
No, I think what you guys are talking about is exactly correct, because it seems like from everything that I'm hearing as you guys are having a good discussion about this, is that it really makes sense to just take the time now to go and explore, get the facts separated from fiction, know what it really is, because I think so many people maybe walk around with a perception that they may have gotten out of I don't know, a horror movie or something, or some old experience.
Right, and assisted living wasn't around 30 years ago. It's a new concept, generationally speaking. So, someone who's in their 90s, their parents didn't have the opportunity to go to assisted living, so it is scary for them because it was only rest homes or, skilled nursing facilities.
And when you add up, it seems like the benefits of what you actually get as a resident there. I know you guys talk about having some sort of a process where you say, look at all the money that you spend when you live independently in your own home. It's this, mortgage, and you list all these things. And then when you look at all those things that you don't have to worry about because it's all taken care of, now it seems like you can enjoy your life and just know that you're in a good, safe place. You guys are like literally very proximate to major medical facility, all kinds of things. So it seems like you have everything. You're close to downtown. You've got everything, and it seems like somebody is better off if they take a moment to come by and see for themselves.
Yeah, or just come to an activity, an event, just hang out. We love to have guests, so.
One thing that many people don't consider is that they think that I can go out and I can have nurse or an aide come in to stay with my mother or my father overnight, and they're going to be fine during a day. But what they don't realize is that I have seen instances where that type of care can cost as much as $300 a day.
Right. A lot of times that's way more expensive to have a nurse in your home.
Exactly right. But there are other things that you can do, like assisted living. You have to depend, based on what you have, you can either go to a higher end or a lower end assisted living facility. It depends on what you want to be able to provide for your loved one. And the better job of planning that you do, the better job of care that you can do for the person. The thing is, where I think most people make a mistake, Ashleigh, is that they're afraid to spend the money they have on good care for their parents, and that's wrong. We don't need to think about how much money we're going to save for the children. Right. We need to think about what type of care can we provide for mother and dad as they live their life.
Yep.
You have a last comment?
Yeah, so...
Television.
Oh, yes. So we're actually running a special for listeners. So anyone who moves into Hibiscus Court between now and the end of June, I am going to buy them a big flat screen TV for their brand new apartment. So just make sure you tell me about it when you come for a tour. And I'd love to show you around our community.
Okay. Thank you, Ashley. We're out of time, but if you go there, tell Ashley where you heard about that TV show thing, or radio show thing. Anyway, thank you for listening, and thank you, Ashley, for being with us today. I hope you can become better informed about assisted living care. Bye-bye. See you next week.
Bye.